Hi, everyone. You're very kind. I get to read the notes. I get to read the chat. Very nice of you. I like doing it. I mean, this is so much easier for me than trying to record a video and upload it. It takes me 17 times longer. It's so bad. So happy Thursday. I will have an interruption, but I told her to just walk in. My son's mother-in-law and a friend of ours, her name's Wendy. Her name's Wendy, but with a Y. She's coming to pick up a ladder at our office. So good afternoon, everyone. I told her that I would be on YouTube, and she's probably like, what the hell is she talking about? So she'll be here shortly to pick up a ladder. But anyway, how's everyone? Good. So now we have Alex Morris, and I've been reading through some of his older cases. So Alex Morris, if you're new, I'm Patty Wilson, and this is Patty's Playhouse. And we talk this week and the next couple weeks, I guess, about Donna Adelson and the Adelson crime family, who put a hit out on their son-in-law, who obviously did not deserve it. He was a nationally renowned constitutional attorney, teacher, professor at FSU Law School, Toronto born, just a brilliant man with a brilliant mind. So I sit here and try to talk about the case because I live in Tallahassee. So Alex Morris is a local attorney that the Adelsons have hired to help Donna, who some believe is the mastermind, allegedly. I do not. I believe the daughter is, allegedly, and the daughter is named Wendy with an I. So when I say, hey, Wendy, it won't be her. It'll be Wendy Rudder. That's her name. So today a motion came out, and I've been reading some of Alex Morris's, who's co-counsel to Daniel Rashbaum, who was also the attorney for Donna's son, Charlie Adelson, who would have been the brother-in-law for Daniel Markell. He likes motions. He likes a lot of motions. Emotion. And he has a new motion in Limine, and I tried to convert it to a JPEG, but it is literally taking forever. Like literally forever. So I'm just going to share this document with you, and we'll go over it together because it's long. Basically, the document says he wants to limit Chris Corbett, Sergeant Chris Corbett from Tallahassee Police Department. He wants to limit his testimony, and he's not an expert witness. I don't know what that means. I'm not an attorney as far as the semantics of what an expert witness is or what it isn't. What I do know is Sergeant Chris Corbett from Tallahassee Police Department has testified all 3 times. And I don't even recall if he was testifying as an expert witness and went through his CV, curriculum vitae. Anyway, CV / resume. I don't remember if he had to go through that when he was on the stand during the Charlie Adelson trial or the Katherine Magbanua. I'll have to go look back at Law and Crime and watch some of the video. So I'm not sure. So I'm not sure if he's going to be a witness, like an expert witness. I don't know if he's going to be, as Alex Morris wants to be, an argumentative summary slideshow. Again, I don't have the vocabulary for this. So you just get it like the Patty way, because I'm not quite sure. He's a fact witness. I like that. I don't know if that's a legal term, but I like it. So I can't be on too long today because it's Patty and Chris's, my husband's name is Chris, our wedding anniversary. So we got married August 29th at a Justice of the Peace 22 years ago. So we're going out to dinner tonight because that's what couples do when they're in their 50s and late 50s and early 60s. So we're going to do that probably earlier than, I think we're going at 6 because we're going with friends of mine who I love. And I talked to her. Her name's Nga, Nga. And she's the girl she's a woman, don't correct me, that I call her girl and she loves it. She is the female really, really good friend of mine. We used to work in the same office building, who's Vietnamese. So I have all these questions for her about renting property in Vietnam. I've already told her I'm going to pepper her with a bunch of questions. She's been here. She's been in the United States a long time, and her accent is still quite heavy, but I'm still going to invite her, and then we can always put subtitles up. But she's a smart woman, first of all. She's really smart in real estate. But I'm going to share with her some of the questions. So if you all have questions about Vietnamese rental property or purchasing property, she told me, and the guy who does my nails, I have my nails done today, they're also Vietnamese. They said you can buy a condo in there. It's the site-built home you can't buy when you're in Vietnam. So I have a bunch of questions for her. If you have questions, you can either email me at patty@gmail, or just put them right here into the comments and I'll get them. And just let me know if you want to just tag it like Vietnam, and then we'll ask her. But she's been a broker for a long time. I mean, I've known her since I moved here, which is 23 years ago this week. I think we moved here 23 years ago this week. It's a big week for me. It's also my business partner. I met him about, I think it was 8 years ago this week as well. So this week has always been, I guess, a great week for me, I guess you would say. So hello to everyone. Gravel Gertie. I love that name. That's the cutest thing ever. Thanks for being a new member. It is appreciated. Hey, Bling, I hope your foot's healing. I hope you're staying off of it. I don't see that you are, but with all your amazing videos of your animals, but I hope you are staying off of it as much as possible. Kaza T, I got your email. So Kaza T won the Bling bag, and I'm going to ship it to her, I guess via DHL is how we do it here, to the UK. But I'm going to send her some American treats to go along with it. I don't want to just send a bag. Like, I need to send a box to the UK. So I'm going to send her some treats. Hopefully she's not allergic to any, like, especially peanuts. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see. Hello. Look at you acting like your romper room, Mr. C. Everybody, Skytroop. Saw you on Crime and Coffee. And then, I should handle that first. Before I forget, let me do a little side swipe here on yesterday's Shelly Flynn. Are you the Shelly Flynn from Tallahassee that I know? Are you the same Shelly Flynn? So let me know. So I was going to share with you Chicky Poo. Yesterday during Roberta, don't pay any attention to my weird notes in here. Where did I put it? I don't even know where I put it. I had a redacted one. I guess I put it on the desktop. Anyway, I redacted a document because, you know, here we go. So I redacted this. This is from the Leon County property appraiser, and also, not really, but the official records. So this is the feed that lets you know if somebody has recorded a mortgage. So Roberta Glass, True Crime, fabulous, great voice, shared yesterday some of Wendy Adelson's testimony. And she's on the stand. And she says on the stand, I don't know how to bring up the video, that you like how fast I've talked. Ooh. Well, I'll slow down because some people may not like it. Anywho, oh my God, you are Shelly Flynn. Now I'm embarrassed. How are you, Shelly? I'm going to turn red now. So I got distracted. I apologize. Nice to see you, Shelly. Last time I saw her was over at Ology, so, which is a beer place. It's a brewery here. So official records search takes you to the house on Trescott. So I, of course, redacted because YouTube likes to take my stuff down. So it's all on one page, but here's where they got married, right? So this is any legal document that's recorded with the county. So they got married and they recorded their license here. So we know they got married in Boca, but they recorded their license here. Was it Boca? I think it was Boca. So anyway, Capital City, a deed. This was when they bought the house and they used the grantor was Capital City Trust. So a deed, and that was their townhome, right? That wasn't when they bought the house. They bought the house later. So here's the mortgage. Oh, no, it was. They were here. Okay, so here, Pentagon. This is my point right here. They bought the mortgage here with Bank of America. Okay, so that's who recorded it. Then in 2012, January 2012, which was 9 months prior to her filing for divorce and doing the Pearl Harbor bullshit stuff that she did, right? She just blew up Daniel Markel's life. They refinanced. So that's what mortgage with a credit union is, MCU. She says on the stand that she went to her, I think she said her lawyer's officers, and removed her name from the title. You can't just do that. So when you're in Florida, so in this case, both Wendy and Daniel applied for the mortgage. They're both on the mortgage. I am not on our mortgage, but I'm on the deed because we are married in the state of Florida. If you are married, you are on the deed to your primary home. Investment homes are different. But if it's an owner-occupied unit or house, then wife and husband are both on it. So I tell people, I'm engaged, I'm buying a house. Great. Just so you know, the second you marry, I know there's some legal semantics to that, but for a lay person, as soon as you marry, you both own that house. You know, so if you were to divorce, say you divorce 6 months later, that person you're divorcing has to sign off so you can sell the house. If you're separated, there's no legal separation in the state of Florida. But if you are separated and you want to buy a new home, but you don't want your current husband who's separated from you to be on it, well, good luck to you, because they're going to have to sign something being aware that you're taking a mortgage out while you're still married. That's just title. That's just the way it works. She sits on the stand and she said, I went to, and I removed my name from the title. You can't do that. You just can't do it because she was on the mortgage and the deed. Because she was on the mortgage. Now I could go, because I'm not on the mortgage, I could go, I'm divorcing my husband, hypothetically. I'm going to go remove my name from the deed. That's possible because Chris is the only author. He's the only one that the, who do we have? Select somebody, you know, some servicer. So we'll just say Bank of America. He's the only one that Bank of America recognizes as with the ability to pay. So they don't care. They don't care as much if I remove my name. That's not how these two acted. They were both on the mortgage. So to remove herself from the deed of the Benton Hills property, he has to go file for a refi. Her refiing it isn't going to remove her. He has to go refi it only in his name. And then there's a quitclaim signed. I'm not a real estate attorney. And there's a quitclaim signed by her, quitclaiming her rights to the property. So it's a twofold thing. We can see here, she may have gone to her attorney's office and said, hey, I need to remove myself. And the attorney likely said, well, you got to go get a refi and you got a quitclaim. And it just never happened. So it's not recorded as such. She may just be speaking in a layperson's term like I do, that said, I just went and took care of it. But the other party, the spouse who's going to retain the home, has to take care of it. And we don't see that that was ever recorded prior to his murder. So I just wanted to clarify that. When she says it, it's just not true. Now, she could have gone to the attorney's office and said, I need to get this started. But in 7 days from getting divorced, and it takes 6 weeks to get a mortgage, 30 days if you're lucky, they were both overly qualified. I mean, he could have, I don't know his credit score, but if he had that kind of cash in the bank, they could have just paid cash for the house and removed her, and then he could have refinanced that later. But none of that, to our knowledge, occurred behind the scenes. So when she says, I got removed from the title, no, you didn't. You didn't get removed from the title. And so that's when I was like, that's a lie, because it didn't happen. It doesn't happen like that. And then she's saying, well, he owes me money. I took my name off the title. He would have had to refinance, then remove her off the title as a quick claim. And then he could have paid her the funds, which of course he refused to do because he filed a motion saying that she was not completely truthful on their finances. So that's what I wanted to state. And that's what I meant. I think there's just a lot of, in the weeds. I'm not a mortgage lender, but what she said is just factually not true. It just isn't. Not that her intent was to lie, because I don't know her intent, but her intent should have been like, I went and asked for it, or maybe he didn't want to get a refi. Maybe he liked this rate, maybe a lot of things, but she would have been on it. So let's pretend you're a people of no means. You have no money. And so I'm divorced. We have no money. I'm going to say we have no money. I'm divorcing my husband. The judge says, hey, Chris, you got to get her off that mortgage and pay her half the proceeds of the house. That's great. But a judge can't force a mortgage company to give my husband a refi to take me out and give me the proceeds. So there's a lot of people that are divorced and still remain on the home and don't realize it or don't think about it until they go buy again. And they're like, I'm still in the house. And I said, well, you got to get I found that out several times with my dad's house in the estate. We had a buyer. I was like, you can't buy this house without your ex-husband's. Wasn't her finalized ex. He's got to sign your mortgage. And she's like, no, he doesn't. I went to a real estate attorney. Well, yes, he does. Go to the mortgage lender. If your real estate attorney is saying one thing, go to the mortgage lender and see what they say, because they're going to look up and make sure you're married, your divorce is actually finalized before they give you that mortgage. And I was right. So it is a couple-step process. It's not as easy as going to an attorney's office 7 days later and quit claiming it. If there had not been a mortgage on the property, that is the case. But they had just refinanced it. There are rules with some refinance, not necessarily a prepayment penalty, but that if they gave them a special rate, which I don't have a copy of the mortgage in front of me. I could probably look it up, but if they gave them a special rate or they bought points, then some lenders say, well, you can't really give it away. We're not going to allow you to refinance for like a year. So it just depends what your lender wanted when you actually filed for that. And they went through Pentagon Federal Credit Union. So they left Bank of America and went here to Pentagon Federal Credit Union, which I thought was odd, of all places to go to get a mortgage. But they probably got a really great rate. And he might have been like, I'm not doing anything until we get your finances ready to go. I don't know, because I don't get to ask him. But I did want to clarify that. And then here you go. So notice at commencement, that's where I learned about the 100 South Meridian townhome. And then this is when that Pafford was terminated. Meeks was terminated. That's when they put the roof on it. Here is where she transferred the deed to the new buyer. And then it took till 2/10/16 to get that mortgage recorded that it was paid off. So that's my story on that. So I wanted to share that with you. But she shouldn't, she's an attorney. She at least took a semester of real estate, my guess, at least one class. And she would have been going, it's not the way it works. It's not the way it works. So not in Florida anyway. And I know Florida. Thank you very much with the anniversary. Thank you very much. It's interesting to me. I don't know if it's interesting to other people, but real estate always interests me anytime, which is why this focus has always kind of been around real estate because it's the only thing I know. You always get red. It's I don't even know what it's called, but it's a pink. It's not red. But I thought it was a good fall color. And it's metallic, not metallic, but it glistens. Can you own property in Vietnam without being a citizen? I will ask her, but she is going to clarify for me. Thank you, Bling. Oh, nice that you always send your kids back with food. I miss that about my mother. I do. Yeah, my cadence is definitely different than Roberta Glass's. Oh, well, thank you, Shelly. And yeah, I hope to see you again soon in person. They got married in the synagogue at Boca, so I was right. Okay. Cool beans. It is not like the Best Buy warranty. No, it's a house and there are rules. And when you're married, there's even stricter rules in Florida because of homestead. So, and creditors and that kind of thing. Thank you from Israel. Well, I'm from Tallahassee and it's really freaking hot today. Wendy said that she and Dan wanted to keep the house and she was to take her name off the house and he would pay her out half the house. And she said that never happened because she would have had to go get a refinance. He would have had to go get a refinance, not her. You just can't remove your name off the deed. A mortgage company, mortgage is the one. So the homeowner is the mortgagor and the bank is the mortgagee. And you are giving a promise to pay to the bank. If they have two people with the ability to pay, and let's face it, they both made good money and they both had a decent amount of cash in the bank, then they both would have had to work with the bank. And the bank's just not going to remove a person off of a mortgage because a judge said so. It just doesn't happen that way. Right? I have no idea. I don't get to ask Wendy questions, in case you know. Did they get a better? I just think at that time, 2012, and Pentagon Credit Union typically has a better rate than a lot of other places. Let's see what the mortgage should. I mean, you could read the mortgage online, but it won't give you the rate. But they financed 2065. Oh, it's adjustable rate. Ooh, let's see. It was an adjustable rate. So they must have got like a 1. Hold on. Transfer rates. I'm reading it. They have an adjustable rate rider on the mortgage. They had to escrow their taxes. It's 24 pages long. I'm just skimming. So what was an adjustable rate in 2012? Yeah, they had like a 3% approximately. It's an average, I just Googled it. For borrower not released, joint and severed, co-signer successors. Yeah, they were co-signers on that loan. They're not removing just one because they wanted you to. Yeah, so, oh, bless his heart. They had a they had an adjustable. So I don't see a prepayment penalty in there, but doesn't mean it's not there. And sometimes there is. It was probably like a 5-1, a 5-1 arm. So what are the motions tomorrow? Well, I don't remember all the motions. I know it's about, let me go. Let me look. 3G is a motion. We know that. Let me go. 3G is a motion. Which I don't think that's happening. Motion in limine, suppress evidence derived. Oh, here we go. Let me share this with you. This is the docket. Let me get my little head out of here. So, right motion for TECU, that's a credit union. Motion for order to issue subpoena. Motion to issue subpoena granted. So that's taken care of. That was granted. Motion in limine. Exhibits. Motion to suppress evidence derived from wiretap. That's tomorrow. Motion to hold trial. Now, there is also a hearing on 9/12. So there may not be everything tomorrow. So just an FYI on that, because I don't know. Motion to suppress or evidence derived from wiretap. Motion to hold trial in courtroom 3B. Motion to dismiss defendant Adelson's motion to dismiss indictment for pre-indictment. So they wanted to dismiss the whole thing. Motion to defend or motion to preclude evidence's travel as a consciousness of guilt. Motion to use a juror questionnaire. Another motion in limine, which I believe is a limitation. This was order granting unopposed motion to the travel date, and then that got vacated. Motion hearing set for 3B. Then we have courtroom Z, which we know now is Donna's going to be on Zoom. And then here, that motion hearing set for tomorrow is now in 3G. This was the order vacating the amended order for, if you remember, jury selection was, again, 917 was going to be moved to 916 and now is back to 917. And this is what I found interesting about this, okay? Just the verbiage. I know it may not be anything, but it may be something. I just see it as a tell. I see it as a tell. So it says, we're not going to move it to the 16th, even if you agree, because this is to avoid disruption of normal courthouse operations and jury selections of felony division B and C on the 16th. So he doesn't want to interrupt the rest of the courthouse, right? Ever it's like this. So in my little layman's term, in my head, that's a tell. So it's like Judy, the YouTube lawyer, had mentioned that the disruption, Katie Kool-Lady also wrote a letter to Judge Everett, the disruption, this big disruption that's going to take place if you're in a 21-seat courtroom versus a 105-seat courtroom. You know, there's going to be people lined up in the hallway. They're going to have other juries issued. They're going to have it's just going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess. So taking that aside, I think that's the tell right there. He doesn't want to move it up even a day, even if defense and state agree, because it's going to be a problem for the courthouse. So think the problem for a courthouse is if someone's told me it's 105 seats in 3G, but only 21 for the gallery in 3B. When we were in Charlie Adelson's courtroom, the first 2 rows on the right-hand side behind Georgia was media. So there's 10. Then you have the Markells their daughter, if their friend comes from Toronto, that was Ruth's next door neighbor. So there's another 4. So there's 14. That leaves maybe 7 for the gallery for the public. Clarissa says, regarding to Corbett, see, you were live. The judge will determine if Corbett meets certain criteria and that his testimony is helpful to Everett or the jury. I wouldn't worry. Got to get back to work listening from the start. Thank you, Clarissa. Appreciate it. So that's the order vacating that moved from 17 to 16. And now it says, nope, we're starting on 17. I'm not. He is one, I'm telling you. For everyone that's been in that courtroom knows he does not play a game. This is not playing any games with him. So this is the letter from Josephine Patuto, which I put in my community notes. She does a lot for the University of Nebraska regarding the NCAA and challenges the NCAA. So she lives in Jersey, but works for the University of Nebraska. So I don't know how this got to be on the docket, but the state put it on the docket. So she is like Judy, the YouTube lawyer, AA Legal Focus. And I know Katie Cool Lady wrote a letter because it was beautiful. I read it. Is when I watched her video about it. But this is a letter to Judge Everett from this person who's probably never set foot in this courtroom. And her name is Josephine Patuto. And I shared with you on the community page a link to some of her verbiage. She's amazing. She writes, I write as a longtime professor of constitutional law regarding the motion of defendant Donna Adelson to move her criminal trial to courtroom 3B. Defendant's motion implicates a Sixth Amendment right to a public trial as well as a First Amendment right of public and media. I understand that others have written regarding the size and dynamics of the two courtrooms, the accuracy of information provided regarding the conduct of spectators, and the consequences of using a small courtroom when there is a significant public interest in the trial. My focus here is on the Constitution dimensions of the public fight. The Sixth Amendment right to a public trial is a safeguard that recognizes that justice cannot serve behind walls. Although the Sixth Amendment right vests in a criminal defendant, Gannett, who owns USA Today, v. DePasquale, the public interest in a public trial means that a defendant has no unqualified right to waive a public trial. The Sixth Amendment thus underscores that the presence of interested members of the public is an important bulwark to assure fundamental fairness to a defendant and in return, public confidence in the judiciary. The right of the public and media to attend court proceedings, moreover, is directly addressed by the First Amendment and is an independent protection of the public trial right. And then she references, whatever its constitutional geographic situs, the right of public access to the courts assures the right of citizens in our democracy to observe and oversee the government in action. Defendant Adelson seeks not to exclude all members of the public, but instead to exclude all but a few by moving her trial to a smaller courtroom. We know that. Exclusion of all but a few, however, still offends the public's right of access unless there is a clear and documented evidence of a real threat to her Sixth Amendment right to a fair trial. Of course, her Sixth Amendment right would trump if such a showing were made. But defendant Adelson fails here. Her motion to move the trial to courtroom 3B is based on a few presumed incidents that guess that more might occur if the trial is not moved. These not only are insufficient demonstration that public access should be limited, but they are incidences that seem readily handled by judicial court control of the courtroom. The thrust of defendant's motion also upends the clear directives of both Sixth and First Amendments by treating the presence of the public as a threat rather than a protection. It establishes a precedent that undermines the exercise of the public right in other cases. In effect, the motion means that whenever there is public interest sufficient to fill courtroom G, by definition, there is a sufficient impact on a defendant's Sixth Amendment right to warrant a move to a smaller courtroom that cannot satisfy that interest. The opportunity of the public to observe the trial through live media coverage, moreover, does not substitute for courtroom presence. Cameras in a courtroom do not show the entire courtroom. A spectator in a courtroom can choose the vantage point from which to observe the trial. She can observe the judge or the witnesses, the lawyers for either side, or the jurors. A spectator can also see any exhibits that are published. Placement of cameras limit vantage point, and the camera operator removes the spectator's autonomy as to what to watch. I wrote this letter to you regarding defendant Adelson's motion because I believe so strongly in the public's right to know, to participate, and to oversee government activity, including the courts. Even so, I was reluctant to write because I'm unsure whether it is appropriate. If I have overstepped, then I hope you will excuse me. Very truly yours, Josephine, she goes by Joe, R. Patudo. That's huge. That's a huge thing. I mean, I don't know if she's ever stepped foot in 3B or 3G, but she probably called and was like, hey, how many seats is 3B and how many seats is 3G? And she probably learned, or she watched Roberta or STS or someone and was like, no, that's not how this works. Maybe. Yeah, Donna will likely, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for her. I mean, we were talking about it yesterday. Think about it. Just friends were talking. She's going to sit there on the left side of whatever courtroom she's on, and she's going to watch her daughter walk past her. She's going to watch her son, at least one, walk past her. She may watch the second son that she hasn't seen in 10 years walk past her. She's going to see, who else is she going to see? Friends of Wendy that she probably knew, probably had at her house, like Sarah Youssef. She's going to walk that Jeffrey Lacoste across her. I mean, she's going to see the Markells in the court. It is going to be a sight. It is going to be a sight for her. And I have very little empathy. I really don't have any. I don't have very little empathy to many people. But I just don't. I think this is going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot for any woman. And all the training in the world that Alex Morris is trying to provide her and coaching is going to be a challenge. It's going to be a huge challenge. No, she's not saying that. She's saying that the question was, she mentions that, but she's like, if it even happened. She's saying it's an assumed thing that someone took a photo in the courtroom. Now, there were people in that courtroom that did try to take photos and were summarily all but physically thrown out of that courtroom. Like, it was brutal. Like, they drug one guy out. So it's not like the judge can't do that. And a lot of it is the jury. It's the protection of the jury. So when I have a friend who was on a horrible murder trial in Miami when a girl was thrown into basically a ditch by her mother, by her foster mother, not her mother, but her foster mother. She said when she was on the jury for this case, at that point, they showed the legs of the jury. So now you don't even have that. You don't even show the legs of the jury. Oh my God. Will we even know that? I mean, I would love to know what she packed. She probably had one of those trunks like Joe versus the volcano. Wasn't John Lau shown on court TV or something watching the proceedings and reading comments from his phone? Probably. I mean, when we were there last time, I mean, you had just a gallery person next to me. She had earpods on because you cannot hear well in that courtroom. All the more reason to not be chewing and in that courtroom. So if you're going to attend the trial, please don't bring food in there. It is such, of anything that I thought was a distraction, that was the biggest thing. But it's really hard to hear the witness. Like Junam Chinda, it was easier to hear her on TV than it is to hear her in person. She just was soft-spoken. So it's hard to hear for sure. But there were people that were watching on court TV and listening with their earbuds on, because even though they were sitting right there gallery. I'm just bringing a notepad. Like tomorrow that hearing, I'm going to be there at like 8:15, so I get great parking, because and I'm going to bring a notebook. Donna's hearing is at 9 a.m. tomorrow in courtroom 3G. Most of the gallery was really watching their iPad or taking notes. The Charlie Lewis, yeah, but you still kind of walk. Like if it's in, like pretend it's in 3B, you are this close to the prosecution and the defense table. It's really close. Wendy's going to walk past her, but they're still going to walk past her. I mean, you just walk up. It's very close. Eastern time, yes. Did I watch trials before this case? Yeah. I am not going to be streaming. I am going to... So, Mentor Lawyer contacted me yesterday afternoon. He is really, really, really busy with law work. So, I'm meeting his Stephanie the Sleuth, and he's going to show me how to stream. And I'm going to stream the trial, and I'm going to help him stream the trial. Oh, absolutely. She'll have fresh Botox. Well, Claudia, thank you very much. Thank you. But I thought this was super important, this letter. And then I thought that comment, we're not going to disrupt the courthouse. I could be wrong. But I think Judge is like really good about not disrupting the courthouse. Like that's his whole thing. You're not going to disrupt my courtroom, and you're not going to disrupt the outside, and you're just not going to do it. So I think Everett, of all the judges, like I've seen Hankinson in other cases. I mean, he was tough, but I think Everett's far tougher. Could be. No, I'm just going to be there in case something happens to his stream. I'm going to be in the courtroom, but I'm going to help him. But when it comes to the trial, my Erica is going to be here in the office or with me in the courtroom. It's just going to, whatever we have to do, we're going to work it out. It'll be fun. But I just thought this person who really has nothing. I mean, we don't know what her relationship is with Georgia, but this one got moved to the docket, which I loved. I loved it. I thought that was really fascinating that they were going to move it. So this is, again, the Chris Corbett hearing motion. Let me get rid of this. Sorry. I don't want to get feedback. So this is the limine, I hope I'm saying it right, directed to the testimony of Sergeant Corbett and related summary exhibit. Defendant Adelson respectfully files to limine directed to the testimony of Corbett and related summary exhibit. The state has indicated an intention to call TPD Sergeant Corbett to testify in the matter. Sergeant Corbett and the state, the substance of his testimony will be presented by a PowerPoint slide deck, currently 329 pages, entitled 2014 Communication Record Analysis. The state has characterized the slide deck summary exhibit. Additionally, the state has sought to designate Corbett as an expert witness in communications record analysis. But as the motion will demonstrate, Corbett's PowerPoint and testimony do not constitute expert testimony, entitling Corbett to designation as an expert witness. Here it says, to be clear, this motion is not arguing that Corbett cannot testify at trial, but rather is limited to the objection to him being an expert witness because his testimony does not qualify as expert testimony. Well, it should after 4 trials. Anyway, that's just me as a layperson. Moreover, the state's proposed 329 summary, it's not funny, goes far beyond the limits of a proper summary exhibit under Florida statute and should therefore not be admitted to the jury. In fact, what's Florida statute 90.956? Let me look it up. Summaries, which is not convenient to examine in court the context of voluminous writings. A party may present them in form of a chart. When it is not convenient to examine the commenting. Okay. This is 956. The party intending to use such a summary must give timely written notice. Well, that should be interesting. That should be really interesting to me. Don't you think? Sorry about that. Did I lose it? And should therefore not be admitted to the jury. In fact, as Corbett's deposition testimony reveals, the PowerPoint is a skewed presentation whose contents were not selected by Corbett on the basis of any specialized or technical knowledge or in an effort to fairly summarize the contents of voluminous records. Rather, the slide deck's contents were selected by the state attorney's office based upon strategic considerations in an effort to advance its theory of the case. Such a slide deck may be appropriate for a closing argument, but it's not appropriate for treatment as an exhibit. The motion in limine is presented in 3 parts. I'm sorry, this has got to be a huge file. First, it will discuss the PowerPoint slide deck as it currently stands and what Corbett testified about in his deposition, which took place on 8/22/24, 3 days after receiving the draft. This section will demonstrate that the slide deck is more in the nature of an argumentative summation prepared by the state attorney's office rather than a technical analysis or summary prepared by Corbett. Second, this motion demonstrates that Corbett should not be admitted as an expert. And third, this motion shows that the state's PowerPoint slide deck should not be admitted to the jury as a summary. Sergeant Corbett's PowerPoint slide deck. The motion first examines the slide deck at issue. In sum, the proposed slide deck is not a fair summary of voluminous records. This is getting very boring. The data inserted and used is designed to look like AT&T records, but it is not a summary. Rather, it is the selective picking and choosing of data in conjunction with interpretations of the data to suit the needs of the state. Well, isn't that the state's job? I'm just saying. The slide deck spans the entire pool of documentary evidence. In this case, it's 329 pages. That is huge. That is so much. That would have, if I can't imagine what my communication summary would look like in a trial because I have 2 phones, laptops, everything. It's crazy. The state's 90.956 notice describes the slide deck as a summary of virtually all the document. Imagine what's not the summary. If that's the summary, imagine. In that notice, the state announced that it will offer evidence in the form of a summary. The notice identified the underlying evidence, which is the subject of said notice. Call detail records of Markel, Magbanua, Garcia, Rivera, but he has Riverall. Spelling matters. Rivera, Adelson, also incorporated into the summary of records from AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, Spirion GPS, which we talked about the other day, Comfort Rental, Safe Gas Rental, Hybrid Rental. Well, that's 329 pages. Doesn't seem so much then, does it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, yeah, that doesn't seem much. 30 pages apiece. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 people. That's 40 pages apiece. That doesn't seem so voluminous when you think about it for 8 people. This is especially the case with regards to the slides relevant to Donna Adelson, as we learned in Corbett's deposition, the work product involved in those slides. Premier Jim, as well as extracts from the above party cell brights, That doesn't seem that big. That seems like a summary then. It is not an exaggeration to observe that this puts in issue virtually all documentary evidence that the state has provided in discovery. The notice continues, stating that these items will be presented and relied upon by a qualified witness, Corbett, of the TPD, who has previously been listed as an expert in discovery. And that, a copy of the summary of the state intends to use, will be provided to opposing counsel by the previously discussed date September 4 and is listed on state's exhibit list. Review of the state's proffered slide deck and Corbett's deposition testimony demonstrates that the slide deck is skewed. That doesn't seem very big at all then, with 8 people, premier gym, all of the rental place, the 2 rental places, the 4 phone companies. That seems pretty small. I mean, they're not going to sit there and go through 329 slides, though, I guess. Maybe they will this time. Review of the pro's slide deck reveals that it is far afield from the neutral summary of records identified in the state's notice. There, Corbett testified that the state attorney's office decided what Corbett should include. Well, let's start with the entire presentation. How do you go about this? Well, it's a process, and it involves generally discussions with the state attorney office and a decision as to what they would like included in the presentation. We discuss. Okay. Discuss information that I have, and then based on their request and knowledge of the case, then I'm asked to put specific things into the presentation. Corbett confirmed this every time he was asked explicitly why he included something in the slide deck. For example, when asked about the inclusion of a text message conversation concerning the purchase of a house on slide 25, Corbett testified he does not know where the house referred to is located, and then he chose to include these texts because he was asked to by the state attorney. Okay, why did you choose to include this slide about the house in your presentation? Again, this is a series of communications that I was asked to include by the state attorney's office as it relates to the relationship between Adelson, and Adelson. Similarly, when asked why he included a particular email at slide 153, Corbett testified he didn't necessarily understand the reasons, but he was instructed to do so by the state attorney's office. Why is that significant to you? Again, the information is reviewed by the state attorney's office. And I may not be privy to all the reasons, but to me, it was the fact that there was a schedule. There was a period of time when, or we would, at least should know where the children were going to be at this time frame. Oh, so it's the children's school schedule, the daycare. The same is true for calendar entry 154. Okay, all right. If we can go from 154, this is just an extraction from Wendy's Celebrate and her timeline events, and it's a calendar entry indicating July 7th to cancel cable and get Apple TV and Netflix instead. Okay, and why did you include this? Again, it's a piece of information that I was asked to include. Do you have any idea of its significance? I'm not aware of its full significance or, again, the overall thought process, but clearly there's information about her TV, the repair of the television, and those things that were happening around this time. July 7th. Phone calls from Stephen Webster on slide 217 were also included in the request of the state attorney office and not through any exercise of Corbett's judgment. And why are you now including Webster's phone calls, and what is the significance of that? Request from the state attorney's office to include them, and again, as far as I think, the nature of the proceedings between Markel and Wendy Adelson. That seems obvious to me, but the same is the case for text messages. Okay, why did you include these? Again, at the request of the state. But this is just like one line that they're cutting out of probably a lot of lines. And for a portion of defendant's search history at slide 324, why would you include that? Again, at the request of the state. Ooh. And for the text messages at 318 and 318 indicates in a response. Okay. Any similar question to last time? And these, all of the WhatsApp messages regarding the issue, or are there some that are missing? A, there is. This is what I provided and asked to include. I've looked at this string. I believe there is one additional text message that falls under this. I don't know if it's to be included or not, but there's, I believe, on after this speaks to the state star witness being a drug dealer or something. There's one more text message in this conversation on a WhatsApp. Okay, any similar question to last time? Are these all of the WhatsApp messages? There is. This is what I provided and asked to include. I've looked at this string. I believe there is one additional text message that falls under this. I don't know if it's to be included or not, but there's, I believe, on after this speaks to the state's star witness being a drug dealer or something. There's one more text message in that conversation. Ooh. Okay, fair enough. Okay, 328. Yes, where did this come from? This is also from Donna Adelson's handset, her Cellbrite report. And it's a message apparently sent to herself with the messages you see there as to stop Amazon deliveries. And why did you include this? Request to the states, but I want to know the rest of that. Indeed, with respect to all of the defendants' WhatsApp messages, Corbett testified that what to include was primarily the state's decision based on the state's strategy. Question, okay, and looking at the WhatsApp messages on Donna's phone, did you find other WhatsApp messages on her phone that you didn't use in the presentation? Yes. Question, okay, and again, how did you decide which ones to use and not? He says that's the state. Some of it is what's relevant, admissible, usable, part of their overall strategy. Again, it bears emphasis that these are not isolated examples. He testified that the process for preparing the presentation involves the state and a decision as to what they would like included in the presentation. And based on their request and knowledge of the case, then I'm asked to put specific things into the presentation. These examples highlight in every instance in which Corbett was asked why he included a particular item in his presentation. He answered that he did not. He did so because the estate's office asked him to do so. The slide deck also purports to summarize inadmissible evidence. In addition to being a work of advocacy rather than a fair summary of underlying voluminous records, the state slide deck purports so summarize evidence that itself inadmissible. In its current form, the PowerPoint is rife with inadmissible hearsay for which there's no exception under Florida law. It rests on guesswork disguised as fact, including so-called optimal routes, and estimates drive times unsupported by admissible evidence. We know the drive time. It references undated visits to web pages that can be seen on Mrs. Adelson's phone, but have no specificity other than that, and they are no longer accessible, rendering any probative value of this page substantially outweighed by the risk of unfair prejudice. Speculation geolocation plotting. It features documents, emails, car rental agreements, and receipts that are not in any way voluminous. And in one instance, it includes communications between Adelson and Adelson that reflects information protected by the attorney-client and joint defense privileges. Presenting a slide deck that exhibits documentary evidence curated by the state office is not expert testimony. The statute sets forth the circumstances under which a proffered expert may testify. And then it goes on to that, which you can read on your own. The Florida Supreme Court has held enforcement testimony, which merely summarizes and explains data, including the mapping of cell phone location data, is not expert opinion. And it goes on, Gordon v. State. The Supreme Court has no means an outliner in the issue. He goes on to that again. Here, Corbett's anticipated presentation is simply not expert testimony, blah, 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 blah. Florida statute sets forth the rule applicable to summary exhibits. The states, and I've read that, it's not convenient to examine in court the contents of voluminous writings. Further, it's like a federal counterpart, blah, 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 more court cases. In conclusion, that's what I'm trying to get to. Through its proffered PowerPoint slide deck, the state seeks to introduce into evidence what essentially amounts to a closing argument. It wishes to walk Corbett, cloaked in the mantle of credibility, the expert witness designation entails, through his slide slide deck, calling the jury's attention to what the state views as its most compelling evidence in support of its theory of the case. And then the state wishes to submit that slide deck, its prepackaged closing argument, distillation of what it considers the most important evidence, to the jury in the guise of the summary. For a pure trial advocacy standpoint, it's understandable why the state may view this as desirable, but it is neither fair nor permitted under the evidence code, blah, blah. It does not permit a witness who engages merely in parsing cell phones, Cellbrite, or other records to testify as an expert. The court should therefore decline to admit Corbett's testimony as, and it should exclude the state's proffered PowerPoint slide deck as summary. So it wants to exclude that summary. Okay, someone in here is an attorney. Let me find that. I believe it's going to be aired. I believe, but I don't know. He verbally spanked a lot of people. I do not know. My morning is open tomorrow. I am not doing anything. Hi, Kim. If the judge grants the defense motion, we're going to be fighting over chairs. No, we're not. I'll stay home. I'll just stream it and I'll give up my seat for somebody out of town. I don't think so. Oh, people brought food. Candy, all sorts of shit. I don't like being next to people who are chewing anyway, so it was just a little much. So the state is presenting Corbett as a witness. Does anyone know if they did that in the other 3 trials? Right? Oh, and of course, dual representation. I mean, that's where I am not in charge. I'm not in charge. They will never see, they'll only see each other at trial. Otherwise, they'll never see again. And the jury will have an up-close personal view of Wendy ignoring and not even looking at her. That is going to be obvious. I know. I don't know. Does anyone know? He should be arriving September 9th. Charlie should be arriving September 9th. Let's see. Transport in person from here on out. In order to transport, there's a couple. Magbanua transport. I believe it's the 9th. I believe he's supposed to be here September 9 to 11/9. It seems like the defense is trying to eliminate any evidence referring to other defendants or co-conspirators by third actions makes Donald look guilty. Okay. And I know Mentor Lawyer is because he asked me to be there in the morning. No, it's going to cost the state of Florida $10,000 to move him. So that's nice. Leon County, it's not even the state of Florida. Chris Corbett did testify in the previous trials. The defense won't get what they want to keep him from testifying in Donna. No. And it really doesn't seem like they're trying to make it seem like 329 pages. But when you have 8 people and multiple cell phone companies, Premier Jim, Dan Markel's phone, all of that, that doesn't seem very large. I hope they're better than the last group. Yeah. So defense is saying Corbett can't use his summary because he's not an expert. Is that how much they're getting, Dave? Will he get peanuts or pretzels? Oh, I don't think he gets anything. Bread and water. Looks like Rashi and Alex don't want to incorporate Donna with the other convicted criminals. It makes her look guilty by association. But can you do that? I don't know the rules. Somebody's going to have to tell me. Hey, Tater. Right? He probably bought a condo. I hope he didn't buy a condo in Miami because those values are dropping fast. Corbett is a fact witness primarily, but considered an expert when it comes to how the data is pulled. Corbett was the best witness. I agree. Defense can produce their own summary as an exhibit and use it as evidence. That's what I thought. I thought if you don't like how this is presented, which of course the state fashions theirs just like the defense would fashion it, then why couldn't they just put on their own slideshow and contradict what the state has? It's not arbitrary Google plot points. Aqua Ridge is one location. Prescott is a location. ABC Liquor is a location. The Old Mosaic is a location. It's not arbitrary in that. It's 8 miles out of the way, people. It's not arbitrary. 8 miles is 8 miles. I don't care what time you drive. Do you think Judge Everett will grant any of these motions? I don't know. I don't think he's going to grant 3G, so I'll be good on that. That's my easy one. Let's go back. There's 54 motion terms in here, so like 26 motions. They're not going to, obviously, the indictment will stand. They're not going to dismiss, but that's just typical for appeals, right? So they're not going to get rid of that indictment. They're not going to, her travel will not be removed, is my guess. Her juror questionnaire, he already declined that, which they say in that motion. So the juror questionnaire, let me open that because it's been a while. It's been a whole while. It's been 2 weeks. Feels like years ago, right? So this is the questionnaire for the jury, since I like to concentrate on jury. This is it. The jury questionnaire. In this, at the end, he says, response to the questionnaire narrowly tailored to assess each veneer member's knowledge of the case and exposure will provide critical insight on the issue, would also help streamline and shorten the voir dire process, and will allow jurors to feel more secure in commenting on these issues in writing, which they may not feel if limited to oral responses. We recognize that previously, Your Honor denied a similar request in Charlie Adelson, but we believe that this situation is different, especially given the short length of time between the two trials. Accordingly, defendant respectfully requests that the court permit use of limited jury attached as whatever. But my guess is he's gonna be consistent, right? That make sense? Is he'll be consistent. So juror questionnaire. What is this defense motion in limine? So many limine. Oh, concerning her pre-arrest silence. Oh my God. I don't think I've ever read this one. Come on in. Get a poll. Hey, Wendy. I'm on YouTube.
Okay, go ahead.
So this one is defendant Donna Adelson's motion in limine, testimony concerning pre-arrest silence, that she never said anything to Craig Isom, that a professor was killed at the memorial. He asked Adelson if she and her husband would submit for a police interview, but that Mrs. Adelson left Tallahassee without doing so. The testimony offered through investigator Isom or otherwise constitutes an improper use of a pre-arrest silence under both the Florida Constitution and Florida Evidence Code should be precluded. So her not speaking to police or allowing a questioning, they want to preclude. During the previous related trials, the state presented evidence through financial investigator Mary Hell regarding bank and investment accounts held by Ms. Adelson and her husband by Charles Adelson and by their respective businesses. Such evidence has no relevance in the case at hand and is being introduced to inflame and prejudice the jury. Let's be clear, we do not dispute the monies paid to Magbanua in the wake of Professor Markel's murder. In fact, Adelson's money. We also do not dispute that Adelson's Institute had sufficient funds to pay Magbanua monthly. What's that got to do with the price of beans? As a result, the state's so-called wealth evidence bears no relevance to Adelson's case and is unfairly prejudicial and inflammatory. They had money. They paid a woman who didn't work, and I think that's relevant. Hearsay from Jeffrey. Lacoste, the former boyfriend, has been called to testify on behalf of the state in each of the last 3 trials. In every trial, Lacoste claimed that at various points during the relationship, Wendy made statements to him, conveying statements that Charles Adelson purportedly made to her. Among other things, including Lacoste, Wendy told him that Adelson said that buying her television was cheaper than a hitman. That Charles Adelson said he looked into the possibility of hiring a hitman. And that Charlie Adelson said he kept large amounts of cash in his home. These statements are hearsay within hearsay, of which there is no exception. We'll see. In addition, in as much as these sirens are going off, as these alleged statements relate to Charlie Adelson, the state should be precluded from eliciting them through either Lacoste or Adelson. There are no probative value, no probative value at all. None at all. Testimony from Wendy. Oh, here it comes. How did I never read this? During Charlie Adelson's trial, the state questioned Wendy Adelson about the characters and storyline of a fictional book that Wendy authored from human trafficking named Changes of Her Children. Wendy's willingness to allow Markel's parents to visit her sons, and relatively the Markel's successful efforts in 2014 to lobby for the amendment to the Florida's Grand Parental Visitation Rights Law. The substance of Wendy's fictional book, written years before Markel's death, named Changes of Her Children, visitation decisions she may have made in the wake of Markel's death, and legislation enacted in response to this death proves have no probative value to the only question this jury will be asked to decide: Donna Adelson's guilt or innocence. No probative value. Hiawassee. Any conceivable probative value in this evidence value is substantially outweighed. Here it goes. How do I not read this? How did you all not tell me? How did you all not say, Patty, read that? Jailhouse recordings. At the trial, the state will likely seek to introduce recorded telephone conversations between Adelson and Adelson, while the latter was held at the Leon County Detention Center following his conviction. While Adelson's statements may be admissible, Adelson's statements are hearsay for which there is no exception. Moreover, certain of Mr. Adelson's statements are highly inflammatory, posing a significant danger of unfair prejudice to Adelson and therefore must be excluded. I guess they have to do this, right? They just have to do it. Autopsy. During the trial of Adelson, the state was permitted to introduce 10 separate exhibits, 2 X-rays, and 8 photographs of Professor Markel's autopsy, along with 3 photographs of Markel after the shooting, but before his passing at a Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. One, he'd passed away and he was just laying there with the ventilator tubes in his mouth. The Supreme Court has held that autopsy photographs are admissible if they are relevant and not so shocking in nature as to defeat the value of the relevance. But to be relevant, a photo of the deceased victim must be probative of an issue that is in dispute. Here, Ms. Adelson does not dispute the fact, means, or manner. Accordingly, any probative value of the autopsy photograph is substantially outweighed by the prejudicial effect. Let me let that sit for a minute. I'll be right back. Did you go? Oh, she took it. She took it. It was a ladder she needed to pick up. So... trying to have both ways to Sunday. They're trying to ride 2 horses with 1 ass all over it. Albert says Charlie is no longer a private citizen. He's property of the state. No name, just a number. All of his airline miles may have been transferred to someone else. I didn't see the end of that. Unbelievable. In your opinion, the autopsy photos are the result of the defendant's actions and should be shown and will likely be shown. Hard to believe that Donna will be spending her golden years in prison. What a way to spend your senior years. She'll die there. Yes, they want all the evidence thrown out and the indictment. They want it all. It's weird. Yeah, you haven't heard me say that, Yallah? Ride 2 horses with 1 ass. Like, you want Daniel to be able to have both, and then you want to say, well, it's attorney-client privilege. Is that why they did this? Is that how you do it, Daniel? I hope that you meet your maker one day, and you have to answer for this. I really do. I think it's disgusting what Daniel Rashbaum's doing. That's just me. Just me. I just think it's disgusting. I don't see how it's legally allowed, but I'm not an attorney or a judge. So I just find him. Jeffrey Lacoste said Charlie hired a hitman to kill Dan, and Wendy told him. She's an indicted co-conspirator, sir. It shows Wendy's involvement in the murder of the family. I'm going to take the stairs tomorrow. Charging my client with murder is extremely inflammatory, Your Honor. I demand this case be dismissed. Currently, I have a son and family staying with me. Oh, do you? Nice for you. They sold their home and are waiting to move into their forever home. Good for you. I know a Wendy, but that's my buddy, Wendy Rudder. Right? Damn. I just think he's gaggy. I love how Wendy said she had to pay taxes on the money she gets for the boys. If you pay taxes means you're making money. Yeah, that's Social Security money you got to pay taxes on. That's not free money. What is she freaking talking about? She's just whack. You're going to get some, well, give me credit. 2 horses with 1 ass. I'm going to get some mileage out of that. But you know what I mean, right? They're trying to ride the wave, trying to ride 2 horses with, I don't know how else to say it, 2 horses with 1 ass. With these motions, oh, Dan gets attorney-client privilege from Charlie, and then Dan gets attorney-client privilege from Donna. And so we can't show these because it's dual attorney-client privilege. I wonder how the judge is going to answer that. Top Cat said the defense could just have 1 motion. We request all the state's evidence be excluded. I don't know. I just think the whole thing is horrid. Dan Cashba. Ooh. I don't think Rashbaum has enough sense to do all this. The other's lawyer experience is what's happening to him. So I was going back and some of the cases I knew that Alex Morris was representing a defendant. I checked. There's tons of motions in limine. Tons. So I think that's his thing. I mean, it's their job to ask. So she gets $4,000 in Social Security. Hi, Anja. How are you? Imagine being the state and having to respond to these defense. But that's their job. I mean, but it'll be interesting. First of all, tomorrow will be interesting to see if Georgia appears or if it's just going to be, not just, but will be Sarah Dugan alone like it was the last time. And it will be short, sweet, to the point. I just don't see. I don't know. But the state hasn't responded to any of these motions yet. None. So I don't know how that works. The state hasn't responded. If the state just says, here's our motions, judge, will he decide right then and there or will he wait it out? Well, like some people say, Wesley, hold on one second. And I'd love to take you to lunch when you're available. We're saying they think they're throwing enough crap on the wall, something might stick. Well, it's just like a few of the attorneys who do YouTube were saying that, to be fair, maybe we'll give them this one. I just don't think that's happening. I don't think the judge worries about that kind of fairness. I mean, just because you ask crap stuff. Social Security is taxed as income. It is for my husband who receives a Social Security check, as well as for children. It is taxed as income. Motion for the jurors to do the moonwalk. Yallah, I will take you to lunch anytime you like. Rashpan thought his A game for Charlie. He's just not a very good attorney for a murder case. Stick to what you know. I think so too. I mean, that just shows but again, 329 pages is nothing when you read the entire motion with all those people. Lakeside, what would be a case where they would be able, I mean, I don't know that obviously they allowed the autopsy the previous 3 cases. So the autopsy photos are going to come in. And that's where I think Judge Everett isn't going to crisscross himself like crisscross applesauce and back up and change his mind on evidence while Charlie Adelson's appeals going forward. Or am I wrong? Can you tell me? Right? Your mama wears combat boots. It's such irony to hear Charlie moan about not watching his son grow up. I know. It's not like he didn't try to miss the first 2 years of the kid's life anyway and not pay for him until the court ordered it. Donna's trial date starts jury selection September 17th. No, they only receive it till they turn 18. Individually. Yeah, we have stale evidence. It's been 10 years, Judge. It's stale. Very stale. Albert says $4,800 for the 2 boys until they reach 18. Or in my case, my kids were 19 as they were 18. Beginning of senior year, this is money that Dan approximately would have contributed to his son's welfare, living or dead. Like in a premise liability case, a motion in limine might exclude prior unrelated accidents on the premises. Interesting. Statements of a co-conspirator are exception to hearsay. You gotta make me look all this up. Here's what it says. My God, it's only 3 o'clock. Today is walking. Walking today is. Now, this is just AI, right? It's not, I just Googled it. But it says, statements made by a co-conspirator are an exception to the hearsay rule. Thank you. However, there are some conditions that must be met before the evidence can be admitted. Independent evidence, before any evidence is admitted, the court must be requested to instruct the jury that the conspiracy in each member's participation must be established by independent evidence, which, I think we have. Confrontation clause, the co-conspirator exception must satisfy that clause, which I don't know what is. And verbal acts. If a statement is characterized as a verbal act, it may be admissible to support the admission of other co-conspirator hearsay. The statement is not considered hearsay if the declarant testifies at the trial and is subject to cross-examination, which he is. And that would be Jeffrey Lacoste, right? That would be Jeffrey Lacoste. Very interesting. We all learned so much. This is just crazy how much I learned here. Patty, did they change back to the 17th for jury? Yes. And I have not received a jury notice, by the way. So I'm not on it. She says crisscross applesauce, and my mind says Daddy Mac will make you jump. It's true. It's crisscross applesauce. Like, he's not going to change his mind and go like crisscross. I don't know how to say it, but back up and then change, like, when he has an appeal going. And it's already happened in 2 other cases, and those appeals were, so I don't think so. Oh no, he didn't. He was forced to pay child support. He was forced. And you can go into official records in Miami and see that. Miami-Dade. And she had to file. Bree had to file and file and file. Oh, yeah. I have no problem with that. Oh, it's too compelling. It's too compelling to see how the man was shot in the head twice. Have you informed Georgia Kappelman about the house name issue? You have great insight on the real estate side of the case. I have not. I have, I'm sure she knows. I'm sure they've already checked that out. I don't think I need to. I'm sure she already knows that that's just not true. And she's not going to press her on any of that stuff. And it really could be semantics. I mean, I think Wendy said enough mistruths that that's the minor of all of them. But I wanted you all to know that you can't just walk into an attorney's office and quit claim when you have a mortgage on the property. Just can't do it. Well, I love that. I'm going to tell my husband. Lakeside lawyer says I'm right. My point is, sometimes it seems defense makes motion for things that are so far-fetched and I wonder, isn't that a waste of their resources? No, I mean, because they have to put stuff on the record. Right? They have to. I don't think so. I mean, I don't have to agree with it, but I mean, they have to. It's just like with the Karen Reed thing. The defense should have asked for a poll, even if the judge would have probably declined it because you can't do what they wanted to do. But the defense should have said, when it was a mistrial because they couldn't come to an agreement on a verdict, this defense should have stood up and said, we would like a poll. Not that, but the judge would likely have not permitted it, to my reading. Rash should stay in his lane. He sucks. To be clear, your kiddo was $600 for 2. The amount is based on income of parent. It was also for permanent disability, not survivor benefits. Interesting, Albert. Thank you for sharing. Well, thank you, Lakeside. Thank you very much. Charlie is a disgrace. We don't know the terms of the trust. It's private. She's asking if the Markel boys will get their $2 million put in trust for them when they reach 18. It's private. It could be 26. It could be 28. It just depends. I'm not buying my previous spouse a house. That's never happening. I don't care how much money I make. It's just never happening. Wasn't Charlie court ordered to pay Bree $1,500 per month for Roman while he was handing over twice that to Katie? Yeah, but it took a while. Like, he didn't. I mean, you got to go in. You got to go. You do your DNA. It took him a while. I bet Bree had to go through. Yes, she did. She did have to. He sits there. There's photos of her on Instagram. And he sits there on her bed having given birth. And he's like, ooh, baby. And now she's like, write a check. And he's like, no, I'm not. Right? It is a lot of money all at once when you get that Social Security. That's why sometimes you don't get it at 18. You get it 21, 26. It just depends. Yeah, Bree is, well, I have no comment. She's just a mess. It's just a mess. Anybody that would fall in love with that man or anyone in that family, and that includes Wendy's boyfriend, whoever he is, because I don't know, because I'm not spending my days looking him up, because I would just be disappointed in him. I would just be disappointed in a stranger that I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you spend one dime on this woman? What could she possibly give you? Except head. Like what? Even then, she's probably in doing that. So, like, what would you be doing? I will be to iterate. I will be at the courthouse tomorrow around 8:15 to avoid. Yes, please avoid politics and religion. I was reading some of that. I don't. Please don't. It's just not the place. But yeah, I'll be there tomorrow morning. What? That she probably just, I mean, my chances are she's not a head giving kind of girl. She could be given head. I just don't know. Poor June said, other than being a murderer. Fancy says, B&L call. I'm not going to do that, but we do know Wendy from Jeffrey Lacoste's questioning wanted the boys to call him dad. He was like, what? I've only known him for a minute. I have no idea. That's somebody much better pay grade than mine. He asked what happens to the boys if Wendy gets arrested. I don't know, but I don't like to sit and talk about that with the boys. I don't know I don't know. Fancy showed a picture of him and her boyfriend is a lot older. Well, it'd have to be somebody who's never on social media. I mean, it'd have to be somebody who's like dial-up days. They're not going to go live with Harvey. Charlie is disgusting. Okay. So he's disgusting on many, many, many levels. And if he were my son, I mean, I just can't even imagine. I mean, my kids know. They know. They know. I would just not approve. Not when I wouldn't talk to them, but I'm like, dude, what are you doing with such young girls? And you're like 48. So gross. A day, I don't really block people, but I'm going to because you're just bugging me now. And what you're doing is distracting me, and I don't want to be distracted. So I don't typically block people unless they call me beautiful. I did block Andrew Barnes quite a bit, but no, you can go bye-bye now. I didn't find him attractive before any of this. So. Is June on the witness list? She is on the witness list. June said Charlie's on her. How can the guy who pushed you around be your dream guy apart from the murder? She just, no comment. I have nothing nice to say. I wonder if Donna is etching a check counting down to her release. So who here thinks she's going to testify? Who thinks they're going to testify? Do you think Donna's going to get on the stand? I will. If you distract me, you got to go. I can't take it. But do you think she's going to testify? She won't testify. I don't think she will. I thought so, but I think Alex Morris knows more than Daniel Rashbaum. So let me see if there's any other motions that came out in the last hour. They seem to drop them at the end of the day. That Janine Patuto thing it's a big deal. Josephine, not Janine. Here's Josephine Patuto.
Heisman candidate at Georgia, who's now been suspended for allegedly signing a number of autographs for an autograph dealer and taking money for it, and Jameis Winston, who I think is going to be my poster child for behavioral issues all over the spectrum, who the New York Times just this past week has taken another look at the rape allegation, and the allegations are that the university, the athletics department, the campus police, the city police, all at least tried to delay that investigation, if not actively impede it. The NCAA has been described recently as, quote, long ago exposed as an archaic, dishonest, and generally useless organization. The only two organizations I can think of that get the same or worse press are the mafia and the United States Congress. So here we are. There's no question that college athletics is a business, certainly if we mean that the NCAA and individual schools try to make money and try to cover.
I just think it's so odd that I'm grateful to her. I think I agree with her, but that she interjected herself. I think it's so odd. And then I think it's odd that the state put it on the docket. I love it. Oh, did ya? You had to hit rewind to make sure I heard the head comment. Yep, I said it. Mm-hmm. You don't think Donna's going to testify? You're following the case from Denmark. Holy cow, Mr. Champion. Holy cow. I know, but this woman obviously is quite busy. She has a huge list of sports people that she represents. She represents the sports for University of Nebraska. She, again, is a constitutional attorney and law professor. And I think, man, this must be a big deal, because we're just sitting here in Tallahassee and not realizing what a big deal that could be if you reduce the courtroom size for one person. I couldn't find another case where that happened, but that's just my research. It's very interesting to me. It's very interesting saying that. I don't think it'll be decided if Donna until the testify until the 11th hour. That's the way it was with Karen Reed, is that, she's like, my attorneys may not allow me to testify. Well, those of us that follow true crime know that that's not the case. Your attorneys cannot prohibit you from testifying if you so wish to testify on your own behalf in your own trial. However, should you? But anyway, Karen Reed didn't do it. But it's interesting that this woman who has no affiliation with FSU, maybe she knew Dan. Maybe she went to a conference that Dan Markel was speaking at. She doesn't state that, but she could have. Or she had watched his videos or read his book. Who knows? But I think it's absolutely fascinating. Yeah, maybe because of FSU. I think it's just fascinating when I read her CV. Why? It looks like Dan and Alex are trying to earn their money, as they should, to keep Donna happy. Donna's paying Dan and Alex a lot of money to get her off. Donna thinks her money can buy her out of prison. Well, will I be covering the Jared Britigan case? I don't know when it starts, so it'll depend on that. And you're not sharing, Salty. You're not sharing. Sneaks into chat with coffee and donuts. You're not sharing. I'm not trying to eat now. I haven't eaten since, what did I have this morning? Oh, I just had a protein shake this morning because I'm going to eat dinner out tonight. So I'm not going to. Charlie shouldn't have testified. No. But I don't think it would have changed the outcome. I really don't. I don't know anyone on that jury. I would love to know someone on that jury. If anyone here knows anyone on that jury that would speak to a lay person as myself, let me know. You did bring enough for everyone. So I think I shared this earlier. I went through the Krispy Kreme drive-through because I was going to get right before the game started. FSU lost, but whatever. So I was going to go. They were having a Dr. Pepper donut, and he likes it. I don't like Dr. Pepper, but they had and they wanted $2.59 for a donut at Krispy Kreme. And I was like, give me my card back. Thanks. No thanks. I'm not doing it. They are going for the death penalty on Shanna Garner. They should. Did you see where that woman slaughtered or tortured that little baby? Her dad is, I don't know her name right off the top of my head, but her dad is a cardiologist in New York. And she was watching one of her really good friends' baby. They were twin boys. And she tortured one as the charge. And they were, they're going after the death penalty for her. They told her that they would. So it'd be interesting. An electric chair. A local show here gives you a baker's dozen for $10. That's like free. Shop. Well, I'm going to go because it's 3:40. Unless you guys have any more questions. I don't know what else to say. What else can I say? Do you guys have any more questions? Boop, boop, ba-doop. You don't like seafood? Oh boy, I do. I like seafood. Well, they are not going for the death penalty because they know in Leon County, you're not getting the death penalty. Leon County, Florida, the last time was that Hilton dude who slaughtered that nurse on the McCauley, Leon County. I mean, it's just never happening. Thank you so much. See you in the funny pages. I wish I was on the funny page. I will. We'll have a nice dinner. We're going with my friend Na, so I am going to ask her the Vietnamese questions and owning property in Vietnam. And see if I would love to have her on. I don't know. She has a very heavy Vietnamese accent for sure. So I'd have to help her, along if you guys can't understand what she's saying. But she's a fabulous person. Very smart, very beautiful. Oh, no, I didn't. Amber, can you send me a... I'll look for. I was going to say send me a photo, but I'll look for it. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and thank you to Gravel Gertie. I love these names. I wish to God I was more clever in my naming. So thank you so much for being thank you, Lakeside. Thank you for joining in and making sure I'm in line with the law. I really do appreciate it. It is appreciative. KC, L, Patty, that is surprising about Leon County. We're a very blue, bright blue county. Especially after law changing to only 8 to 12 jurors needed to vote for it in order for the defendant to get it. I know. But it just isn't going to happen here. Wade Wilson has to be the first wish to get it under the new law. Is he not the weirdest? I mean... well, thank you very much. And don't know, Natural Lives, I do enjoy them, so that probably helps. I do not enjoy trying to record, and then I overthink every little thing I say when I record, and then you have to post it, and then I'm like, but I didn't. This way, I just shoot the shizzle. I'm just shooting the shizzle, and what I say is what I say, and then I'm like, okay, well, I said it, so I said it. Yes. Enjoy. Oh my God, Denmark. I always wanted to go. Oh, it's extremely blue. Extremely blue. In the Trump election, there was a little bit of Palm Beach that was still blue. It's probably going to more to blurple. And then like blue purple. And then Gadsden County, which is extremely poor. And Leon County, which isn't poor, but very, very blue. Plus, we have the college here. Oh, Gainesville. Alachua County was blue, too. Well, thank you very much. You like fast talkers. I didn't even know I spoke fast until you said so. Didn't even know. Oh, thank you. It's like having coffee with hundreds of like-minded Wendy haters. Thank you. Less blue than it used to be. However, we do have a Republican state senator for Leon County now. First time since Reconstruction, right? I know. And he's running again. I'm going to it's Corey Simon. He was an FSU player. And I am going to his fundraiser on the night of the 17th. So after jury selection starts, he's having a fundraiser at Doak, and I'm going to go. It'll be nice. Jared, are you coming up for the trial? Will you be here? Bless it. Are you coming up for the trial, Jared? Oh, they'll give you the death penalty. They just won't vote for the death penalty. I don't have to come up. Oh, you live in Tallahassee. Oh, I thought you lived in South Florida. I thought you lived in Palm Beach. I thought you lived in Palm Beach. I don't know why I thought that, but I did. I really didn't think you lived here. Nice. Well, then you can come in my office. You can come on with me. You're living. I thought you lived in South Florida. I didn't know how to reach you. Oh, nice. I am friendly and I am fun. I'm really not as friendly as I seem. I'm friendly to a point when I'm not on camera with you all. Like I'm a little bit more reserved because I'm always thinking, what do you want? So I have a big like chip on my shoulder when I go out. I'm always like, I had to get I have a 93 Land Cruiser. It's right side driving, a Toyota Land Cruiser that I had shipped over from, not shipped, but it had been shipped over from Japan. And the AAA guy knew me. And I was like, he's like, hey, Patty. I'm like, how do you know me? And he's like, living in Tallahassee. The guy was probably scared to death. I was like, why do you know me? But that's the Philadelphia in me coming out. You live in Southeast. Ooh. Patty is selective. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. I obviously it's fast, so I can't read every bit of the chat, which I try to, post chat, but I don't recall everything. I don't. No, I don't think that they do that. Jared might know. Do you think Sarah and Georgia could cross Wendy at the same time to get her talking and make mistakes? I don't think they do that here, but it's good to know. My office is in the Southeast, Jared. My office is right next to Lumber Liquidators. Yeah, that's where my office is. So I'm across from, which I never go there, but the Dairy Queen in the warehouses, because we have a warehouse. That door goes to our warehouse full of furniture. Deborah, please. I don't know. I don't want everyone to know me. I really don't. I really don't want everyone to. We were talking about that on the radio yesterday. Oh, your office is downtown next to the courthouse. That makes sense. Well, will you be there tomorrow? Are you going to the hearing? I don't believe she's moving to Austin. That's just me. I have I have two sources down there. I don't believe she's moving to Austin. I don't think she is. I do love Dairy Queen, but I really try not to go there. Taking the kids to Universal, but you will be at the game on Monday. Well, good for you. I will not be at the game on Monday. I will be working, but I'm having a big open house on Sunday. But have fun at Universal. I do like that. Patty, people remember your cute hairstyle. Yes, they do. That is it. And there's a commercial on right now where I'm in the commercial. It's a friend of ours, and he's a realtor of ours who owns T-Spark Enterprises, and my head is in the commercial. I would love to have him on. Now that you live here locally, I won't feel like, I'm sure I'd be interrupting your day if I called you, Jared, but I'd feel less like I was interrupting you because you're local. That's how twisted my brain works, but I will call you. When I got the text message from Mentor Lawyer yesterday that he needed help with streaming, I was like, oh, it's Mentor Lawyer. Oh, you better respond because I know he's busy. So do I think it's cheaper to rent? Who is it? Do I think it's cheaper to live or rent or buy Austin than in South Florida. I looked it up, I think, the other day, and the median price for a single-family home, median, in Austin, Texas, is $658,000, and it's about the same in Miami-Dade. Post food pics of your anniversary dinner. I will. Oh, well, thank you. I do have a little radio show, so I have learned something, I hope, in the 8 years I've had it. It is 8 years we'll have had that show. 8 years this month. 8 years since I met Scott. 8 years since it's a lot. Jared, what chances do you get with these motions in limine, Corbett, Lacoste, Hitman, joke? These are much more important than the courtroom change. Thank you, says Charlie. CDW, Charlie Delta Whiskey. Oh, I can make that happen. 2 locals who follow the case closely. I would be shocked if any of that evidence is held out. Cool. She moved, yeah, August 15th. I mean, what was it? Yeah, she signed that lease around that time. Or their attorneys. Your blood pressure needed that. That was a great question, and thank you for asking him, because I don't know. That's true. All this evidence has been tested with 3 different judges and the appellate court. Siegfried went to the appeal. Magbanua went to the appeal. Charlie's is delayed, shockingly. I know. I hope it's not like a Charlie Adelson arrest. I hope it's a Wendy Adelson arrest, like Donna Adelson arrest. I just don't think she's moving. I just don't. I don't think she's going to leave her father. I don't think her father's moving. I just don't believe it. I have one of those dolls. I have the blonde. She says, and the button you turn to wind the hair back of the belly button, my childhood doll that my mom threw out. Well, I bought mine on eBay because my mom didn't let me keep mine either. KCL says, I wonder if Wendy is active in the Jewish community in South Beach, if she truly moved there. Really? I don't think so. Court will likely deny the motions in limine, in your opinion. Am I saying that right? Is it limine? Limine? Yeah, I don't think she's moving. I don't know where that came. I'm sure there was a source that says we think she's moving to Austin, but my 2 sources did not believe that. And interesting. Yeah, the state hasn't had a chance to file a brief regarding that motion, so probably we won't hear about it till the 12th. Oh, I am saying it correctly. I took Latin in high school, so it's been a while. Yeah. Remember the clock was stopped at 10:53 Friday on the wall of Wendy's flat? That was such a strange photo. Do you think it was deliberately set at that time Dan was murdered? My head says yes. My heart says I pray to God no. I just think that's an absolutely cruel thing to do, but I don't put it past this family. I just don't. Remember the clock was stopped at 10:53. I just don't believe it. Starkwork says she is definitely moving, have a very close source. We'll know when she moves. We'll know when she moves. Will Donna be where? Donna will be on Zoom tomorrow. She will not be in the courthouse. I don't believe. On September 12th, she will be in the courthouse, but not tomorrow. My guess, and I don't know how the FAA works, is that she would be given a flag. My guess is, but I don't know because I can barely get on a plane myself anymore. Correct. He was shot at that time. Correct, Julie. Thank you. She has turned out to be a big disappointment to her parents. Well, with her hair pulled back. I thought she looked awful. I listened to all these people like Court TV, Law and Crime. Everybody was like, she looks good. Donna's looking really good. I'm like, Donna looked like trash. What were you watching? Like, I thought she looked like utter trash. Trash. Can Donna see everyone in the gallery? No, she cannot. Harvey is waiting for Donna to come home, staying in South Beach. Speaking of which, will W be closer to a border to flee? Just as close as she is in Florida. I mean, boat, whatever she's doing. No one knows if the boys are I'm sure they're registered in a school. We just don't know. But Donna won't be able to see me. I can barely see her. No. Pretty sure Donna's crazy grin was drug induced. The jail does not work that way. It doesn't work that way. She's not getting drugs just because she wants some. This isn't the Adelson Institute. You just don't, it just doesn't work that way. You don't get happy pills in the Leon County Jail. Trust me. If you're crazy, you stay crazy. They just want you sane enough to stand trial, and that's it. It doesn't matter if you've got boo-boo face or boo-boo hair. It doesn't matter. You get your heart medication, but that's watched by the nurse. You get diabetic medication, but you're not getting your serotonin upper. You're just not getting it. It's not. They will only keep you. There was a girl named Rebecca who used to be on the feed that she knew this girl, but it was a woman who I think stabbed her mother like a lot. And she was a concert pianist, and the mother was in her head hard on her, and she just snapped and just sliced and diced that mother. She got antipsychotic medications when she was in jail because they had to keep her sane to have her stand trial. But most people, if you're just on a serotonin, Seroquel, something, you're not getting it. You need a sleeping pill, you're not getting it. If you need a Xanax, you're not getting it. You just don't get it. It's jail. Sorry. Don't go to jail. KCL says, it cracks me up if Harvey really thinks Donna's going to come home to South Beach. That's another indicator that Adelsons are out of touch, right? I hear Wendy lives a very locked down life. I also think Harvey took the pics of the interior of the condo and Wendy staged them. Could be. Could be. Yeah, she does want to look easy breezy, walking the beach with her friends. Have I seen the YouTubers say Tamara had a crush on Dan? I don't think that was the case. I absolutely thought it was the case before that. Yeah, I mean, Craig Isom said it. I think so. I think not maybe like, I think she really loved him to enough to be with a woman who wasn't her, loved him enough like she loved him. I think she truly loved him, either like a brother. I don't know if it's Eros kind of love, but she truly loved him. And she may have had a crush on him at some point, but she loved him so much, she could not come back. She left Tallahassee shortly after he was murdered. So Donna Sue, that's right, Donna Sue Adelson. That's what we should all be writing in here. Reminder of that middle name, Donna Sue. I'm telling you, on Donna Sue's mind, she wants to look easy breezy. Yeah, she doesn't. I believe that in the interview with the Greenbergs, Dan's friends who were a married couple, yes, who did a police interview, and I do believe they were telling the truth. I do too. I think, I don't want to talk bad about Tamara, but if she asked for a T-shirt of Dan Markel, which the Greenbergs have no reason to not be honest about that, then she had it big for Dan Markel. whether it was unrequited or whatever. I don't know, but I looked up that surgery. It looks brutal. Brutal on the bat wing surgery. Brutal. Will Donna tape up her bat wings since she didn't get her nip and tuck? But if she has a constant source of Xanax and whatever pain medication she wanted, then maybe that bat wing surgery wouldn't be so bad. Yeah, you could tell by the way she talked about him. I know. It's a girl thing. Do you think Wendy will be asked about her visit to the crime scene? Yes, she was asked the other 3 times. She'll be asked again. Oh, thank you. It came from Old Navy. This blouse came from Old Navy. Why does Wendy bring Morgan Honeycutt to her with the trial when John Lawyer is her attorney? John Lawyer was there too, so I don't know why she brings Honeycutt. Why was Morgan Honeycutt on Donna's phone when she got arrested? I think there's a lot of questions about Honeycutt. Yep. That batwing surgery leaves a scar that is almost as bad as the batwings. I would think. Like, I'm not doing that. Is Morgan Honeycutt in love with Wendy? I have no idea. But I still don't know if she's that woman that was with that Denise Williams either. I mean, when I look at her and I found another old picture of her, I just don't know that that's her. I know it might look like, I don't know. I got to do some more research. I could see doing that when my dad passed away, but not some friend of mine. Yeah. I saw my dad's clothes because it still smells like him, and it'll be 2 years this Christmas. The breast reduction does the same. You know what's bad is that tummy lift. I thought about that, and I'm like, I'll just keep my flab where it's at. I'm good with my flab. I had my flab for a really long time, and removing the flab would be more painful and sad to me. I might just name it. Honeycutt's there to guard the ladies' room, right? I mean, I hope to God she doesn't act like that. Broadback seems to be hanging like around the ghouls. I don't know, SD. I don't know. I wish somebody could tell me. I just don't see it. I'm not a lesbian. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I just don't see it. I just don't. Yeah, the scar for the breast reduction is hidden. And that scar for the arm is not. No, it's right here. I mean, you're just cut up like an autopsy. No offense. But yeah, it's tough. Because they like crazy. I mean, what kind of victim thing are you into? What we need, Jared, is a psychologist. That's what we need. I need to find. Oh, I'm writing that down. I'm going to get my girl on here. She's not my therapist, but she's a client who's one. I'm going to ask her. She might be able to help. Try double mastectomy. One of our agents just had one, and they put in Botox around. So they put in the expanders, and they put Botox around the expanders so she wouldn't have the pain of the stretching. Oh, I don't want to do that. She did it, and she's still going through it. And they're filling it like with saline. They fill the expanders every once in a while. She's handling it like a champ. I mean, she is just amazing to me. How it was the first time this surgeon had done that. And so he put Botox around the breasts, what's the remaining of the breast tissue. And I just think she is really handling this like a champ. But she told me the Botox really, really helps. What do you think about all the evidence that they want to bring in with Wendy and Youssef emails? Ooh, no, I haven't seen a motion to suppress it. So Wendy forwarded the motions from Dan Markel to Honeycutt back in 2014. I know. Right? So my neighbor died. This is years ago now. We didn't really talk. His name was Mr. White. He wasn't pleasant to my kids when they were young. Even though we stayed to ourselves, it's not like we're throwing balls in his yard or anything. He just wasn't. So there was crime scene tape at his house. And I was like, oh my God, someone murdered him. But that's not what happened. He fell and he had a stroke. And during the So he had a stroke. The stroke caused him to fall. He was holding a glass in his hand, and so the glass broke, and he was cut, and so he bled out for days. It was horrible. So because they had known, as the neighbor across the street found him, they had crime scene tape, and I stopped. I mean, I was like, "What happened? What happened to him?" That was it. Oh, the Greenbergs said that Tamara told the Greenbergs' wife she slept with Dan, the husband, and Dan talked about it. Tamara wasn't Jewish. Yeah, I think no comment. Yeah, girl I went to high school with, she had the gene, so she had it voluntarily. One of my first assistants when I came back from Clearwater, she had it as well. She had the gene. Yeah, I don't do elective surgery. If I were going to do anything, I'd have my nose done. But now I'm like, my mom's gone and I have her nose, so I wouldn't want to do that. But I would have liked it a long time ago. I would love a Netflix series on this. Obviously, only if the Markells would consent. There's so much info here. I think they would. I don't know for sure, but I think that they would. It's just like she wrote a book on the unveiling. I just can't. And that I think is going to be. Isn't the unveiling coming to a TV near you? Isn't something with Ms. Markel's books coming in? Tamara was a good gal, and she did have Dan's best interest at heart. Absolutely. Don't let the interview. It doesn't dissuade me to her. It makes me feel for her a little bit more. Because if you have that kind of love that's unrequited, which I've had in the past, it's hard. It's hard to have an unrequited love. Double mastectomy saved your life at 35, but don't recommend it. Love your show. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Marianne. Very sweet. I like the name Marianne. Yep, it was crime scene tape near my house. No amount of police would hold me back from finding it. Me either. She's a good person, has been an integral part. And she has. I don't dispute that at all. I feel for her. Just as a woman to a woman, someone who's experienced that kind of love. And you're like, oh. It has love that has nowhere to go. And then when they're murdered, oh my God, I can't even imagine. Absolutely. True that, Jared. I like her and sympathy for her. Yeah, I do feel for her. Like when I think about Tamara, I think how much she must have missed him to have to move. And I understand that too. So I do. I get it. It's just hard. Oh, well, thank you very much, Rosemary. I wasn't searching for compliments, but I will take them. Thank you. I do too. I mean, Tamara and Jeffrey, to me, both of them, the way she was sitting there, like I like to watch, right? I watch people. So when Tamara was sitting there during her questioning, she was just really, she is brilliant. She's like multiple degree person, but really trying to process her brain around what had happened and stayed so stoic, like not stoic in a mean way or bad way, nothing like that. But she was just really trying to like process that Wendy Adelson could have been the person to do this. And like she was friends with Wendy and then going to the house and seeing everything and then seeing Harvey Adelson, who she'd known multiple times, met multiple times, look at her the way he did. It was just very, very interesting. I know they don't, but playing that questioning for the jurors would be absolutely incredible. I mean, she's like, I don't know if she is. I know she's been on, I know with the Foundation Justice for Dan, she is absolutely integral. I do. I just feel for the girl. And she's not a girl. She's a woman. She's multiple degree. She went to Harvard. She's brilliant. None of that. It's just, it would be like, I've had lifelong friends, luckily for me. And when one is gone, it's really hard because your future stops with that person. It's just hard. Yeah, she did. Unlike Wendy. I don't know if she got back. I don't know anything about that. To me, it shows Wendy was already packing, referring to Wendy taking. I'm surprised that there isn't some sort of suppression to that, but there's not yet. But he didn't depose her. So this, the defense hasn't deposed Tamara either. Give her that. I think it's very interesting who they've selected to depose. So they're deposing Lisa Shelby, who's friends with Jeffrey Lacoste, who I shared with in a previous podcast that she started at FSU the same time Jeffrey did, who's also another brilliant woman. And they're choosing to depose her, and they're choosing to depose Jim Lewis, who was Sigfredo Garcia's Siegfried's first attorney. They're choosing to depose him. So, that is just made for TV. It wasn't Tamara. That was Ryan, the friend. That was Ryan. It was heartbreaking. But you can see her like truly looking down and trying to process and wondering everything she said and everything she's known about Wendy Adelson was a lie. And I think that's like, we had a situation here recently where we had a bunch of our stuff stolen. And police were called, that whole thing. And then you realize someone posted our furniture on Facebook in a room. And so you kind of get a feel of who has our stuff. And you think, oh my God, everything I knew about this person is not true. So I think that's part of it, is you have to like process it and come to grips with it and think about it. And you're like repeating, where did I make a mistake? Why did I trust that person? I had my original, my husband gave me a beautiful engagement ring when we first got married 22 years ago, stolen by a handyman. And I will never forget that feeling. And it was just, you feel so taken advantage of, abused, just everything you knew about that person was a lie. And that's where you just like, God, I let that kid do that. I let him in my house to steal from me. And I think that's kind of maybe what Tamara was going through. Like, I let that person in my life to steal from her. And stealing from Tamara was removing Dan Markel from the earth. It was just horrible. But all of his friends felt that way. I mean, the man had there were a ton of people that wrote those letters that Roberta Glass reads, that they were affected by the loss of Dan Markel, and he was stolen for them. And we allowed the Adelsons into our lives, and look what they've done. And that's a lot to think about and process for these people. So on that note, I don't have a letter to read, but I do pray for Ms. Markel and Phil Markel and Shelley, who have to go through this all over again. As I giggle about Wendy having to walk past her mom. I do. I giggle about it. The fact she doesn't brush her hair or clean her shower. But think about that. The Markels have to come to Tallahassee again. My dad died 2 years ago in Leesburg, Florida, and I don't want to ever go back. And it wasn't a murder. He died of natural causes. But think about that. What those Markels have to get on a plane. One from, maybe out west. One from Toronto. The daughter from Toronto. The friends who come in. The female friend that I met that was a philosophy professor at FSU who resigned from FSU shortly after Dan was killed because she didn't want to be there anymore. And that's not Tamara. That's another person. And lives in Jefferson County, and they have to get that and go to that courthouse again. They don't want to do it. Think about those people. As I do guffaw. I do guffaw about this, but I just think, God, the agony of getting on that plane and making sure you have the right flight and booking into a hotel and dragging your merry self down to that courthouse and watching these people that you allowed into your life, that you helped with the wedding, that you loved their children, that you had dinner with, and Shabbat or whatever you did as a family with the Adelsons, to know that those Adelsons took your child from you. I don't care how old he was. It's a lot. So as we think about it, and we guffaw about Wendy and her cleaning and all that, we really concentrate in the next couple of weeks about the Markels and Tamara and the Greenbergs and my friend now, she's my friend now, the philosopher professor, and the Popes, who's the Greenberg's mother, who I know, and all the jurors that sit there and have to listen to this, and the jurors who were there before and before and before. And think about all those people. Bree, Chinda. Hopefully she won't get lost. Chinda is coming to the courthouse again. And Jeffrey Lacoste. I mean, Jeffrey Lacoste. I shared with you that video, those moments where Jeffrey Lacoste realizes when he's in that questioning room, I think it's the third time, and he mutters under his breath, I think she did it. She did this. And that's what he says. And you're like, and he's going back and forth. I let her into my life, and look who she is. So just say a prayer for all of these people. If you're a praying person, good thoughts. If you don't, not everyone prays. I pray. I try to pray all day. But please think of that. And the judge. I think Judge Everett needs prayer as well. I think it's a hard gig. I wouldn't want it. But I think, the Markells, it's a lot. It's an expense to come down here. If you can, buy Ms. Markel's book. You can go to Audible. I think you can get it free for 2 weeks and listen to it. But I think her perspective is a beautiful perspective. But they invite these people, these murderers, into your family, and you're stolen from. So that's that. I'm going to go try and have a good time with the husband I have, which is my second. I can't believe I'm married this long, 22 years. I didn't get married that long. The first time I was married 14. So 22 is a long freaking time, but he's cute. I do love him. So you all have a great evening. Justice for Dan. And just think of these people, because as we sit around and stream them, they have to live it. So take care, everyone. Have a great evening. I'm stumbling now. 2 hours in, I'm stumbling. Have a great evening. And thank you all so much.